If I described a philosophy whose central teachings were live simply, eat bread and water, cultivate close friendships, withdraw from political ambition, manage your desires so they never exceed what's easily available, and spend serious time thinking about death to stop fearing it, you probably wouldn't call that philosophy Epicurean.
And yet, that's exactly what Epicurus taught. The man whose name became synonymous with luxury and sensual indulgence actually lived in a garden outside Athens, ate simple food, drank water, and argued most human suffering comes from the disordered pursuit of pleasures we don't need.
Welcome to Philosophy for Lunch. I'm Shawn.
And I'm Claire. Today we're correcting a 2,000-year-old misreading. We're talking about Epicurus, what he actually argued, why the distortion happened, how his philosophy compares to other ancient approaches, and whether his real teachings are more useful than the luxury brand version suggests.
Epicurus was born in 341 BCE on Samos, the son of an Athenian schoolteacher. He studied philosophy, encountered the atomist tradition from Democritus, and founded a school in Athens around 306 BCE. He purchased a garden outside the city walls, where he and his followers lived together. The community admitted women and slaves as equal members, which scandalized many contemporaries.
The community was simply called the Garden. Members pooled resources, lived simply, and practiced philosophical friendship and moderate pleasure. Epicurus wrote prolifically, over 300 works, but almost none survives directly. We have 3 letters, the principal doctrines, Vatican sayings, and extensive fragments. The picture that emerges is coherent, though details are sometimes uncertain.
Epicurus suffered from poor health, possibly kidney stones, and managed pain with philosophical equanimity. He died in 271 BCE, reportedly sending a letter to a friend describing both his suffering and his contentment. His bodily pain couldn't overwhelm the joy he felt in philosophical memory and friendship. Whether or not that letter is authentic, it perfectly captures the Epicurean ideal he spent his life articulating. The survival of Epicurean philosophy is extraordinary. Most of what we know about Epicurean physics and the atomist account of the universe comes through the Roman poet Lucretius, who wrote On the Nature of Things. The poem was rediscovered in 1417 by Poggio Bracciolini in a German monastery, becoming pivotal in the Renaissance intellectual revolution.
Ironically, Lucretius's poem survived because monks copied it. Members of an institution dedicated to the soul's immortality preserved a text arguing for atomist materialism and the mortality of the soul. The history of ideas is full of accidental survivals, reminding us how contingent our intellectual inheritance is. The distortion of Epicurus into a philosopher of luxury began almost immediately after his death, mainly by rival schools, especially the Stoics, who caricatured his teachings as a license for self-indulgence. By the time Epicureanism became a Roman fashion, it was already associated with refined dining and sensual pleasure.
Horace's phrase carpe diem is often read as Epicurean, and in spirit it is. But the luxury version, spend lavishly, drink deeply, pursue every pleasure, is closer to the Stoic caricature than to Epicurus's actual teaching. The genuine Epicurean season of the day is modest. Appreciate pleasures already available, avoid anxiety about what you lack, and notice sufficiency.
The foundation of Epicurean philosophy is hedonism, pleasure is the good, pain is the bad. But it's a sophisticated version that looks nothing like the popular image.
Epicurus distinguishes between kinetic pleasures, pleasures in motion, like eating and excitement, and katastematic pleasures, pleasures of stable condition, like aponia, absence of pain, and ataraxia, absence of disturbance. Katastematic pleasures are higher and more important. The good life is organized around tranquility, not the pursuit of exciting new experiences.
Epicurus observed that pursuing kinetic pleasures generates desire, and desire is a disturbance. The pleasure of eating a rich meal is real, but temporary, followed by renewed desire. The cycle of desire isn't a path to stable happiness. Tranquility, being free from want, is more pleasant and more stable.
He distinguished natural and necessary desires, food, water, shelter, basic social connection from natural but unnecessary desires, refined food, wine and desires, neither natural nor necessary fame, power, wealth. Satisfaction of simple desires produces genuine pleasure. Unnecessary desires produce anxiety. Relying on simple pleasures makes happiness more attainable.
Epicurus's insight connects to contemporary psychological research. Hedonic adaptation literature, studying how we return to baseline happiness, suggests Epicurus was onto something real. We adapt rapidly to improved circumstances, so chasing ever greater pleasure is less effective than it seems. Simple pleasures are stable.
Epicurus also anticipates the psychology of consumerism. The cycle of desire, satisfaction, and renewed desire is what advertising exploits. The next acquisition promises satisfaction but always leads to new desires. Simplifying and refusing to expand desires is a strategy for escaping this cycle, not asceticism.
Epicurus called friendship the greatest of all goods wisdom procures for a happy life. The garden was organized around deep, lasting friendship, not casual networking, but intimate philosophical relationships that provide security and warmth for tranquility.
Aristotle distinguished friendships of utility, pleasure, and virtue. Epicurus's philosophical friendship is closer to Aristotle's friendship of virtue than to the casual sociability the Epicurean brand now suggests.
Barry Schwartz, in The Paradox of Choice, documents this dynamic. More choices in wealthy societies haven't improved happiness. In some domains, satisfaction decreases. Too many options generate anxiety and regret. The Epicurean prescription Simplify Desires is, in behavioral economics terms, an embrace of satisficing over maximizing. Research suggests satisficers are happier than maximizers, despite having fewer and less refined options. Epicurus's treatment of death is the most original and practically useful part of his philosophy, and almost absent from the popular version.
He thought fear of death was a primary source of human unhappiness. People make poor decisions and fail to appreciate what they have due to background anxiety about death. Achieving ataraxia requires confronting and dissolving that fear.
Epicurus argued, death is nothing to us. When we exist, death isn't present. When death is present, we don't exist. There's no moment at which we experience death as bad. The soul is made of atoms and disperses at death. He pairs this with a symmetry argument. Our non-existence before birth didn't trouble us, so post-mortem non-existence shouldn't either.
Thomas Nagel criticized this, arguing death is bad because of deprivation, the future goods we won't have, not because of the experience of being dead. The deprivation account doesn't require a surviving subject, just that life would have been better if it continued.
Epicurus anticipated this and responded, the goods death deprives us of are future goods we don't possess and shouldn't grieve losing. We don't grieve pleasures we didn't experience before birth, so we shouldn't grieve those after death. The symmetry holds for deprivation as well.
Whether the arguments succeed, Epicurus is pointing at something psychologically important. Much anxiety about death is about incompleteness, not metaphysics. The Epicurean response is to cultivate a life that minimizes that sense live in a way that feels sufficient now, genuinely appreciating available pleasures.
That is a genuinely useful response, not because it resolves the metaphysics of death, but because it redirects attention from future anxiety to present practice. The Stoic memento mori and Epicurean responses both use mortality to sharpen appreciation for present life, rather than let anxiety poison it.
The rivalry between Epicureanism and Stoicism is one of the great philosophical debates. The comparison illuminates both schools they agreed on more than they acknowledged and disagreed in ways that still matter.
The most fundamental difference is on pleasure and virtue. For Stoics, virtue is the only genuine good. Health, wealth, and relationships are preferred indifference. The good life is exercising virtue regardless of circumstances.
Epicurus rejected this. He thought the Stoics were dishonest about pleasure and pain. The body matters. Pain is genuinely bad. Pleasures of friendship and simple food are genuinely good, not just instrumentally, but intrinsically. His hedonism is a serious claim about value.
The Stoics criticized Epicurus for making tranquility, not virtue, the goal of philosophy. For them, retreating to a garden and cultivating private pleasure is opting out of social obligations. The Stoic sage is politically engaged and acts as a citizen of the rational community.
Epicurus argued the wise generally avoid political life, not from cowardice, but from a clear assessment of its cost to tranquility and its limited genuine benefit. The political arena breeds competition and unnecessary desires. Withdrawal allows for genuine friendship and pleasure, away from public turbulence.
The contemporary relevance is striking. Many people are navigating how much to engage in public life versus pursuing tranquility and deep relationships. The Epicurean answer, prioritize depth, friendship, and present pleasure, is not obviously wrong. The Stoic answer, engage with the world and take on responsibilities, is also not obviously wrong. The tension is built into the human situation.
What Epicurus and the Stoics share is more important than what divides them. Both believe happiness is primarily about your inner life. Both see philosophy as practical. Both value freedom from irrational fear and the examined life. Their disagreements are real, but within a shared conviction about the purpose of philosophy.
Epicurus is underrated for practical wisdom. His distinction between natural and necessary desires, and those generated by marketing and status, is not just philosophically interesting, it's practically useful for thinking about consumption, ambition, and satisfaction. The hedonic treadmill is exactly what Epicurus described.
His response: simplify, identify what genuinely matters, stop generating desires that exceed what is easily available, is borne out by well being research. The culture of more is not.
The emphasis on friendship is deeply right. Positive psychology finds close relationships are the strongest predictor of subjective well being. Epicurus put friendship at the center of the good life, centuries before modern research confirmed it. The Garden's model of genuine philosophical friends is a sophisticated account of satisfaction.
Epicurus's account of death is more useful than often credited, not because the argument fully succeeds, but because the practice confronting mortality to appreciate life is valuable. Terror management theory shows bringing death anxiety into conscious awareness reduces its distorting influence. Epicurus was doing this in 340 BCE.
What Epicurus gets wrong is the withdrawal thesis, the claim that the wise generally avoid politics. The tension between tranquility and citizenship is real. The Stoics were right that philosophical life can't be fully private. Rational beings in society have obligations beyond tranquility.
That criticism shouldn't obscure Epicurus's contribution. In a culture that overvalues ambition, acquisition, and excitement, and treats the quiet life of simple pleasures as lesser, Epicurus is a corrective voice. He helps people escape the disordered desires and unnecessary suffering the culture generates.
Epicurus was suspicious of elaborate philosophical systems. He thought philosophy valuable insofar as it produced therapeutic effects actually helping people live better, with less fear and disordered desire. Empty philosophy is like medicine that doesn't heal. The test of an idea is whether it works, whether it reduces suffering.
That's a pragmatist criterion centuries before pragmatism, and it's the right way to approach practical philosophy. Epicurus wrote, "Do not spoil what you have by desiring what you have not. Remember, what you now have was once among the things you hoped for." That sentence serves the same purpose as the Stoic memento mori and Buddhist impermanence, turning attention to sufficiency, not absence.
I want to say something personal about why this episode matters. Claire and I have been working through the tension Epicurus points at balancing the work of the show against tranquility. Is it worth it? How do you weigh intellectual pleasure against the cost in tranquility?
The Epicurean answer is, if the work produces genuine friendship and intellectual pleasure and doesn't generate more desire than it satisfies, then it is consistent with a good Epicurean life. The test isn't ambition, it's genuine satisfaction. Are you closer to ataraxia or further from it?
By that test, this show passes. Not every episode is easy, but the work, the thinking, reading, conversation, and bringing ideas to others is genuinely pleasurable in the deep sense Epicurus meant. It's engagement, not excitement. Engagement sustained over time, around something that matters, with people you trust that's close to the Epicurean good life.
The misreading of Epicurus as a philosopher of luxury is a case of how ideas get distorted over time. The distortion serves interests, making radical simplicity seem to endorse excess. The original, recovered from letters and fragments, is more coherent and useful. Epicurus, who ate bread and drank water and counted friends as wealth, has more to say to a culture of overconsumption and isolation than the Epicurus of oysters and wine ever could. There's a connection to our philosophy of love episode. We argued philosophical compatibility, a shared orientation toward the world matters more than shared values for lasting relationships. Epicurus describes an orientation: sufficiency, depth, present appreciation. Someone with that stance makes deep relationship possible.
The Epicurean examined life organizes itself around the question, what do I actually need, and do I have it? Most cultural needs, upgrades, achievements, recognition don't survive honest examination. What remains friendship, engagement, simple pleasures, freedom from fear is more available and satisfying than the culture's preferred version of the good life.
If there's one practice to take from Epicurus, it's the pause before pursuing the next desire. Ask, do I need this? Will it make me more tranquil? Or generate another desire when satisfied? That pause is Epicurean philosophy in portable form. It doesn't require a system, just honesty about what you already have.
Next week, we're going into the philosophy of mathematics. Are mathematical objects invented or discovered? Do numbers exist independently of minds, or do we create them? It's a strange question with deep implications for truth, knowledge, and reality.
If this episode made you want to simplify something, a desire, commitment, or plan that's exactly what it was designed to do, share it with someone who's running faster than they need to.
Sources and further reading are in the show notes.
We are Philosophy for Lunch, new episodes every Monday.
Big ideas. Human conversations.
See you next week.